Kristallnacht. It was a cool night in early November, 1938. I was 8 years old, going on 9. My parents and I had just been to see a movie, a German film about the Olympics, which had been held in Berlin the year before we moved there. I was upset because I'd wanted to see The Adventures of Robin Hood instead. I'd read the book and wanted to see the American movie of it, but the Nazis had banned the film from Germany. I hopped from the sidewalk into the street and back again, pretending to be Robin Hood fighting the Sheriff of Nottingham as we walked home to the Irish embassy. I loved the idea of Robin Hood protecting the poor and the helpless from the evil King John, especially because John was the King of England. If I weren't Irish and already born to hate them, I had plenty of other good reasons for loathing the English. Then we heard the first crash. The three of us froze. The crash was followed by a woman's scream, and the acrid smell of smoke bit at my nose as a black cloud rose over the rooftops the next street over. "A fire," Das said. "Hurry! We have to help." We ran for the street corner, but before we got there, 5 men in brown shirts and red armbands came around the turn carrying axes and sledgehammers and paintbrushes and torches. One of them smashed a store window with his axe, and my father threw out an arm to hold me and Ma back. Glass showered the streets, shattering into 1,000 bright shards. A man dipped his brush into a can of paint and then slathered it all up and down the front of the shop, painting something on the wood. Across the street, 2 more men broke the windows of a department store and tossed red paint all over the shoes on display. I didn't understand. "Go. Move," Ma said, snapping us all out of our stupor. "We have to run." "Why? What's happening?" I asked. But my parents were already dragging me away. More shouts, more screams. Far off in the distance, a siren. We ran into a side street and stopped again. Shards of glass covered every inch of the street like ice, crunching under our feet. Every window had been shattered, and the word Jude, the German word for Jew, had been painted on storefronts. Sometimes there were even little cartoon pictures of Jews. They had big noses and round heads and dull looks on their faces. "My God, they're finally doing it," Das said. "They're going after the Jews." I didn't understand what he meant, but I was afraid. Men wearing plain clothes and carrying axes had broken down the door of a synagogue where Jewish people went to pray. The men began tossing prayer books and scrolls into the middle of the street. One of the men with a torch bent to set fire to the pile, and another man, a Jew, I guessed, came running out of an apartment building nearby, trying to stop him. The other men caught the Jew, and one of them struck him in the head with the wooden handle of his axe. The Jewish man dropped down to the street, the broken glass clattering beneath him, and the men gathered around him and beat him with the handles of their axes, while their comrades set fire to the pile of Jewish relics. I gaped in horror, my heart thudding in my chest in time with the wax of the axe handles, until my mother put her hand over my eyes and pulled me away. "We have to get back to the embassy," Das said. I pulled my mother's hand away and dragged the sleeve of my coat across my eyes. I hadn't even realized I was crying. "That man, they were hurting him. We have to go back and help him," I said. "We can't, love," my mother whispered. She was crying too, I realized, and that scared me even more. "Keep your heads down," Dot told us. "Keep your heads down and don't say anything or do anything." Every street we turned down was strewn with broken glass and filled with men carrying sledgehammers and axes. It was happening all over the city. Some of the rioters wore the brown shirts of the SA, the Sturmabteilung, the thugs of the Nazi Party. But more of them wore ordinary woolen trousers and suspenders and white work shirts with the sleeves rolled up. Regular citizens who wanted to run the Jewish people out of town. We were close to the embassy when we came upon a squad of Gestapo, Germany's secret police, loading men into a truck. At last, the police were rounding up the rioters. A Gestapo man stopped us and talked to my father. I didn't know much German then, but I understood he wanted to see our papers. He told us to stay where we were while he checked in with another officer. "They're rounding up Jews," my father whispered, "taking them to the labor camps." I frowned at the men being loaded into the truck. Why were Jewish people being arrested? The Jews were the ones the Nazis were attacking. I wanted to shout at the police, telling them they were doing everything backward, to make them stop. But I was helpless. A little boy. I couldn't even speak their language. My mother grabbed my father's arm. "Davin, there!" A man across the street was trying to sneak away in the shadows. "Ein Jude, versus abunhauen." The cry had come from above me. I looked up and saw a boy about my age hanging out the window. The boy was yelling and pointing at the man across the street who was trying to get away. I knew enough German to have understood the word Jew. He was telling on him to the police. One of the Gestapo men saw the Jewish man trying to escape. He called out for him to stop, but the man ran. The Gestapo man pulled out his gun and fired. Bang, bang, bang. The shouts rang aloud in the street, drowning out my cry of "No!" The Jewish man arched wildly as one of the bullets hit him, and he stumbled forward into one of the shattered storefronts, falling face first at the feet of mannequins splashed red with paint. A sharp piece of broken glass poked up through the back of his shirt, stained red with his blood. He was dead. "No!" I cried again, but my mother pulled my face to her coat to muffle my screams. I pushed and fought to get away, but she was too big and too strong. I didn't know what I was going to do if I got free. I just wanted to do something, anything. The Gestapo man with our papers walked back over to us, crushing shards of glass under the heel of his boot. I stopped struggling and held my breath. What if they took us away too? What if they shot my mother, my father? The Gestapo man said something in German. He must have told us our papers were in order because Dad dragged us away. We held one another close, stepping over the glass. I kept my eyes on the ground where I saw the reflection in each and every one of the shards of glass, hundreds of little Michael O'Shaughnessy's looking back at me in despair. "We have to do something," I whispered. "We are doing something," Da told me. "What? What are we doing?" I asked. "We're just running away." Da and Ma exchanged a look. "We have jobs, Michael. Roles to play here," Ma said. "Important ones. And if we fight these people right here and now, we can't do those jobs anymore." "What, you mean by being ambassadors? What good is that when people are dying?" "We're not only ambassadors, Michael," Ma whispered. "We have another mission. A secret mission." "Megan," Da said warningly. "If he's going to share in the danger, he should at least know the truth of it," Ma said. Da sighed and gave in. And that's when they told me their secret, our secret, right there on a Berlin street in the middle of what later came to be known as Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass.